This is KCCK's Culture Crawl. I'm Dennis Green, and my guest today is from the African American Museum of Iowa, Brianna Wright. Brianna, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
How's summer going at the museum?
It's going good. We've been really busy, so...
Do you still do summer camps and activities for kids during the summer?
We do. Yeah, we actually had our summer camp last week, Tuesday through Friday, so
Oh,
we just wrapped that up.
So you've managed to now get a good week's sleep.
Yeah,
and
luckily our educators take care of most of that, so I kind of hide back in my office while summer camp is going on.
A lot of little feet running around all week long, though.
Yes.
Well,
it's good.
It's good to get kids into the facility.
Yeah, it's always fun when they're there.
And you guys have a lot of hands-on fun stuff to do.
We do have a lot of hands-on. We try to make sure that we always have lots of stuff for the little ones to do at the museum.
So, but to talk about some upcoming exhibits.
Yeah.
So tell me what's happening.
Well, right now we are hosting a traveling exhibit that was prepared by the Smithsonian, National Museum of American History and National Museum of African American History and Culture. It's called Changing America, the Emancipation Proclamation 1863 and the March on Washington 1963.
Oh, interesting. I guess I never really tumbled the fact that those two things are almost exactly
they're
exactly
100 years apart. So what it does is it looks at both of those events and not just the events themselves, but both the history that surrounds them, and then kind of looks at, the connection and relationship between the two 100 years apart. So we've had that open since the end of June, and it will be open through August 7th, so just a couple more weeks for people to get in and see that until it goes off to its next location.
So what are the highlights of that?
Well, I don't know. I like the whole thing. It's hard to pick some highlights. I really like on the March on Washington section, there's a video that goes along with it that shows actual footage of the march, and that's probably one of my personal favorites because, you're seeing actual footage from the actual event and seeing people speak. It's part of Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech is on the tape, so that's probably one of my favorite parts is because you kind of get to feel like you're a little bit more there and in it. So I
am always astonished when I see the pictures from that march and just see, because it happens, I just got back from Washington, D.C., and so I stood, where all those, the 500,000 people stood to hear that speech in the time before social media and the internet, and yet they all knew to get there.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing how many people actually showed up to the March on Washington. And I lived in D.C. for about 3 years, and just imagining how many people, seeing those pictures, I just can't imagine being in that spot with so many people. So it's amazing.
So just a couple more weeks and first part of August is when that goes away.
Yes, August 7th, so 2 more weeks for that. Yeah, we had it for 6 weeks. We actually got a grant to get the exhibit through the American Library Association with funding from the National Endowment for Humanities. So it's traveling to 50 sites around the country. It's been traveling since, I think, January 2014. So we'll keep traveling for the next year and a half or so. So we were fortunate to be one of the 50 sites selected to have that, and we've done some great programming and have a couple more left to do. So.
Okay, and speaking of that, you've got some more stuff coming up.
We do. So program-wise, on Thursday, July 30th at 6:30, we have Professor Leslie Schwalm from the University of Iowa, and she will be presenting Emancipation's Diaspora, Race, and Reconstruction in the Upper Midwest. So she's going to be looking at how Black Midwesterners kind of shaped the landscape around here after emancipation. So she's looking at Reconstruction in the Midwest, which is, I feel like usually you hear about Reconstruction happening in the South.
That is not a topic that gets addressed very much.
Right. So really excited about that one because she's going to be looking at how, kind of the immediate post-Civil War, post-emancipation period in the Midwest. So she'll be talking about that and presenting on her research there. And then on Saturday, August 1st at 11 at the museum, we are partnering with a local book club to do a book talk about the book Freeman by Leonard Pitts Jr. It's a story of a newly freed. He was actually a runaway slave. So shortly after the Civil War, he's been living in Philadelphia and goes back down south, I think, to Mississippi to find his wife, who he left 15 years earlier when he ran away. So I haven't gotten a chance to finish the book personally, but our education assistant, Diana Henry, will be leading a discussion of that, and the public is welcome to come and read the book and hear about it.
Leonard Pitts is awesome.
Yeah.
If you're wondering, how do I know that name? Where do I know that name? You read his columns in the newspaper a lot. And he's fabulous.
Yeah. So those are our last 2 programs with that. We did 6 total in the 6 week we've had the exhibit. So we've done 4 already. These are our last 2. So definitely encourage people to come out and check out either one of those programs and the exhibit while they're there.
And then you've got a new exhibit coming up.
We do on August 28th, August 29th, we will open our next exhibit that was produced in-house. It's titled Products of a Creative Mind, and it will be looking at the history of African American invention and innovation. So we'll be highlighting scientists and doctors and just everyday people who invented or innovated things that were influential kind of to everyday life. So we've got it split into 4 main areas. We'll start with a section on agriculture and the food industry. We have a section on kind of daily life and working life, so just everyday problems people encountered that they solved through invention. And then a section on transportation and then medicine.
So, and George Washington Carver,
Oh,
of course,
yes.
he's the name that first pops up when you
He
think
is,
about
yes.
that.
He will be a big feature in the agriculture section, obviously. Got a great Iowa connection there as he was a student at Simpson and ISU. Did a lot of work with farmers in the South, teaching them better farming practices, and also developed hundreds of new uses for peanuts and sweet potatoes and pecans, I think it was. So lots of good things there. We're actually working with a local company that is doing a replica of his Jessup wagon, which
Cool.
was the wagon he used to travel
Right.
around the South to teach farmers about better farming practices. He would distribute bulletins. So they're actually building us kind of a fairly large replica of that will be in the exhibit. So that's kind of one of the cool elements that we're working on there.
So the Emancipation Proclamation and March on Washington exhibit goes through the 7th. Couple of programs coming up for that you
Yes.
talked about, and then the
Products of a
Creative Mind exhibit starting at the end of the month. I'm sure there'll be some programs that you'll be doing with that.
Absolutely.
So come talk to us about that as
Yes.
those get a little bit closer. In the meantime, if you'd like any more information about these upcoming programs, you can go to your website, which is
blackiowa.org.
or if you prefer to talk to a real person, can somebody call?
They sure can. Call us at 319-862-2101.
Brianna Wright from the African American Museum of Iowa. Thanks for coming in.
Well, thank you for having me.